by the... What made boat captains' presence necessary in Scituate during the 1800s was the shipbuilding industry on the North River. This provided the inspiration.
Well, grateful for your help.
The shipbuilding industry.
Welcome to the Maritime and Irish Mossing Museum. We're up and running. I'd like to call for a moment of silence for all those that have lost their lives off the Scituate shore. Thank you. To the Scituate Board of Selectmen, to Scituate town officials, to the Scituate Chamber of Commerce, to Georges Danton, who donated the replica of Etrusco to Scituate 2 years ago, to George Ryan, representing the Era Society of Boston. Thank you for helping us celebrate the opening of Scituate Maritime and Mossing Museum. And to all of you here tonight who assisted the Historical Society in some way in the opening of this museum, a big thank you. I'm going to ask Amanda Turner to come up and read a poem. I think it's very appropriate for a couple of reasons. We want the kids of Scituate to be involved in this society. It's their heritage that they'll be learning about here, we hope. Amanda was a student of mine last year. Very nice girl. And I was talking to her father this morning, and he was telling me that he was chairman of a town committee that was studying this issue of developing a maritime museum, and the town decided that they didn't want to do that it was too much of an undertaking, so they decided to recommend that the Historical Society do it instead. And I said, thanks a lot. So, Amanda.
Sea Fever by John Masefield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea in the sky, and all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by, and the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sails shaking, and a grey mist on the sea's face and a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blown spume and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream when the long trip's over.
Thank you, Amanda. You did a great job, and you did the kind of job I knew that you would do. Thank you very much. This museum is about the future as well as the past. Our goal is that many generations from now, people will look back and say, 1997 was the year they really started to preserve the town's rich maritime history. There are so many people to thank, I can't name them all. But to everyone that has come forward with artifacts, pictures, information, a big thank you. There are a few people to whom we are deeply indebted. Peter Whitman, Skip Toomey, Stacy Hendrickson, for their extraordinary artwork. They often spent their weekends, evenings, and even during the day in the museum silently working on their beautiful paintings. Dana Richard of DJ Electric was here yesterday completing the wiring and the display cases, and when that was finished, he asked if we need any more help, and he ended up helping us finish up the displays themselves. Dana Green, I'd like you to kind of step forward a little bit. A little more. Dana Green was a general contractor for quite a long time now. He did the same, finishing up displays, doing last-minute alterations. He even missed his wife's birthday, yesterday I believe it was, so he could complete his work. She's not here tonight. We hope she's not too upset. Richard Curry spent countless hours working on the building. Bill Carter and Tom Malloy have donated and loaned invaluable artifacts from Situate shipwrecks. Bill Carter right now is trying to track down a large air compressor for us, and if we are lucky enough to get it tonight, we're going to fire off a whistle, and I'll tell you about that. We'll gather everybody back out here when we're ready to do that. It's the first time that the whistle has been blown in 67 years. I'll give you more information on that later. Bob Beliveau, George Burris, Peter Whitfield of Media One, who produced all the video in the museum. The museum curators deserve much credit. They are Bernard McKenzie, Carol Miles, Glenn Fields, Fred Freitas. To all the wives and husbands of all those who have been widowed the last couple of weeks because of last-minute work that needed to be done at the museum, thank you for your patience and understanding while we've been away. We must not forget the generous bequest of Dorothy Wood. The reception area has been named in her memory. I want to thank Pat Mann, Nita McMath, and her son, who volunteered his time to come and help with the refreshments, Elizabeth Spaulding, Betty Meisner, Duncan Todd, Betty Whitaker, Ruth Downton. They all chipped in for the refreshments this evening. There are two others that deserve a special thank you. Pam Martell and George Downton. Fred, where are you? Can you go in and get what we need here? Pam volunteered, and Pam, would you kind of step forward, please? All the way. Pam volunteered to act as the display coordinator for all of the exhibits. She basically was the boss when it came to making decisions for all of the displays. She has done a truly remarkable job. She came to us with an impressive background, namely as display coordinator for the Norman Rockwell Museum. She spent uncountable hours planning and setting up exhibits. We're going to present to her a dozen roses as a token of the Society's appreciation. There's one person I haven't mentioned yet, George Downton. Could I see you up here, please?
Come on, George.
George has been here every single day, literally, since last summer, working on the building, acting as building supervisor. Without his assistance and dedication to this museum, it would not be ready for the opening tonight and this weekend. About an hour ago, I asked George if he could do me a favor, and that was to peel off the backing on two-sided tape. I was having some trouble with it. Then I figured it might be kind of a good way to just make him do one more thing for us. When you go back in the building, the last thing I did when I came out is I stuck on the door a temporary plate to be a permanent plate, thanking George for all his work, because the museum would not be ready. He's done a yeoman's service. So it is now the George Downton door. Congratulations. I'm going to ask Susan Phippen, representing the Board of Selectmen, if she'd like to come up and say a few words. Okay. Joe Nutt.
Thank you. I don't think Susan has ever been happier seeing someone walking through the parking lot 5 minutes ago than me. But Susan would have been more than happy to do it. But I'm here. On behalf of the town of Situate, the town administrator, the Board of Selectmen, Susan Phippen is here with us today. I'd like to thank the entire Historical Society for what they've done here. But particular thanks to someone who's spent the last 5 minutes thanking people, and that's Dave Ball. Who I don't, and Fred Freitas.
Good boy, Fred.
I don't think a day has gone by in many, many months that one, if not both of them, have not been here. They've been here every day. This is a testimony to everyone that Dave thanked, but also to these two gentlemen. They worked tirelessly, and it showed. One only has to go back a very short period of time in our memory to remember the building that was standing here when it was the construction house for James Landing. And the condition that it was in, and no fault of anybody, this isn't a knock, but when they left, it was in disrepair. And all we have to do is look what we have here today to see what can be done privately by people who are dedicated as the Historical Society is. Look what's happened. And if there's one thing that separates Situate from many other towns, in the Commonwealth, it's that spirit of cooperation, the spirit of the love that everyone has for the town of Situate, but particularly the people of the Historical Society. Sometimes I know as the town goes through the day-to-day operations, it becomes budget time, etc., etc., sometimes the town gives the impression that we don't know what's going on, or we don't appreciate what's going on. And believe me, nothing could be further from the truth. We certainly know what's going on. We know the hard work and the amount of money that the Historical Society saves the town. But we also, believe me, appreciate it very, very much. So again, on behalf of the town, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I know Joe Hayes is here tonight representing the Situate. I guess he's representing the chamber. And I'd like to have him come up just for a couple of minutes. We have had an excellent working relationship with the chamber, and we want that to continue. And if Joe could just come up here he left. Okay. Is there anyone else from the chamber here, Lisa? Okay. The quilt that you see hanging on the building was made by students at Gates School a couple of years ago as an interdisciplinary project. Teresa Conroy asked if we'd be interested in having it here tonight, and I thought it was a great idea because, once again, as I said before, we're interested in having student involvement. So that is why it's here tonight. It's kind of a message that we want the kids of this community to be involved. It's a great bunch of kids in this town, by the way. I came across a former student of mine when we were getting ready to look for somebody to cut the lettering on the slate that is right at the entrance of our building here, and David Haley told me that he'd be more than happy to cut the lettering for us. He spent a lot of time looking for the right kind of lettering, and he did that. So that's what we mean. There's been a tremendous community spirit here. Now, I think this is kind of neat. I talked to Cindy James this morning, and I talked to Joe too, and I asked if their son would be willing to cut the ribbon. Jonathan James is the youngest Mosser in the town of Situate. He's in the 4th grade. And I thought it'd be really neat if he would be the one that would cut the ribbon. So we're going to have him cut the ribbon. I think it's a great symbolism. Once again, it's kids involved, but it's also very representative of what's been going on in this town since the 1840s when the first Mosses arrived here. So, we're ready. Oh, you hold up.
Hold up. Hold up. One second. Hold up. All right, John. Go ahead. Ready? Go ahead.
Okay. One more person. Representative Hines just arrived, so I'm going to ask him if he would come up and say a few words.
David, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon and to recognize the efforts of David and Fred and so many others to accomplish this memorial to part of the heritage that makes Scituate what it is today, and what a fitting weekend in which to have this memorial dedicated. As I came in, it was Joe Norton who was beginning to speak, and I couldn't help but think that someone told me that the Norton family got its start mossing on the shores of Scituate, and so one Irishman's following another in making this presentation this afternoon to, I guess I'll give it to David, and it just recognizes the hard work that all of you have done in contributing to this one more item in a physical remembrance and testimony to the heritage of the town of Scituate. This museum, maritime and mossing industry. Congratulations, David.
We have one more thing that we're going to do right now, and that is Bernard McKenzie is going to fire his cannon to celebrate the opening of the museum. Hold on just a second, Bernie, not quite yet. When if the steam whistle arrives, we will call everybody back out of the building, and we will do that part of it. Hopefully it will come. Do it.
Ready.
Thank you.
It's open.
Primary attention leads us to the famous Scituate Lighthouse, which was built in 1811, and also of Minot Ledge Lighthouse in 1850.
Representative, however you want to look, it's just
Murray does that. You don't do that. That's not yours.
He's retired from that now.
God love her.
Okay, Representative Frank Hines, here you are at another event of Scituate. How do you describe this?
I think this is one of the most extraordinary dedications I've been to, simply because it really honors people who came to Scituate and made their living on what is perhaps the most vital natural resource in Scituate, and that is the ocean and the waterways. So it's extraordinary. And to do it at the beginning of Heritage Weekend, to dedicate this facility, and it's really astounding. It's really remarkable, and it's a great day for everyone.
How would you describe the museum as you now see it?
Well, I don't know. Ask me in about 15 minutes and I'll tell you. Because
you haven't been there yet?
No, I haven't. I just came in off the expressway. So I'm going into the museum and look at it. I was just getting some understanding of the history of this building, though. I'm told that it used to be a pest house, and that is a place where people who contracted smallpox would in fact be cared for. And there's a small historical cemetery in back in which some of those poor folks were buried.
You're going to be in for a very inspirational tour. I want to know what your comments are when you come out.
Great.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Great.
Thanks, Frank.
Here we go. I'm ready for you. Tape's rolling, you guys.
Hey, Joe, we've been through a lot of dedications in the last year or two, and this one is something just, in my terms, of being absolutely magnificent. How do you feel about this? What's going on here?
Very much the same as you do, I'm sure, Peter. You know, this is a coastal community. It's a town that was born and raised on the sea, by the sea. The heritage is definitely heritage freedom by the sea is a motto that is stuck with Scituate since the 350th observation. This typifies, I think, exactly what Scituate's all about. It's a hard-working community where volunteers who work hard and work tirelessly can do just about anything, and they do. We saw it, you and I, we had an interview similar to this a few years ago at the playground, where a group of 5 parents worked just 20, 30 hours a day, it seemed, to raise money and to build a playground for the children of Scituate, a playground that probably would not have been built if it wasn't for their hard work and their effort. And again, a similar situation here, a group of people who worked just day in and day out, raised money, worked hard, spoke to contractors, were able to get some contractors to donate some time. They got money donated. And by doing this, they built something here today that, as you can probably see behind me, that unfortunately, and I hate to say this, wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Have you been inside yet, Joe?
I was in a few weeks ago, and it was just magnificent. And I'm looking forward.
Joe, nothing was done then. You go in there now, Joe.
I'm looking forward to that, Peter, going in and see how much it's grown in a matter of a few weeks. And I just see this thing just growing, and being another added great attraction here in Scituate. And so proud of it. So proud of the Historical Society. Everyone that put so much time into this. It's a plus. And as I said in my remarks, sometimes we tend to forget, and shame on us, that the hard work that some of these private organizations do, we appear to forget it, but we really don't. We really, really appreciate it, and we know that without their work, as I said before, it just wouldn't get done. So,
negativism surrounds us, but here is an opportunity. It's so positive, Joe. It's got to make us feel good.
Well, that's so true. I mean, I guess we all have been very, very aware of the negative attitudes of people and papers and newspapers, always looking for the downside of something and always trying to make a story where none exists. But I know when they report this today in tomorrow's papers, I know they'll have nothing but good to say about it. And it's a perfect example of a positive attitude by a community, not a negative one. This is positive, and it's positive from the very beginning, and it's going to have nothing but positive effects over the next 100 years.
And that's the way it is in Scituate.
That's the way it is here in Scituate.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a light on you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just you're going to be talking with Peter.
How
Don't
long
worry.
is this going to take?
You talk to Peter.
It's up to us. It's up to us.
Tape rolling. Go.
David, I've watched you over past weeks and past months and even past year, and you've worked your tail off to bring something about for our town. How do you feel at this moment?
I'm pleased, with the result, but I think the thing that has to be kept in mind is that this was really a community effort. It was, everyone pulling together, people coming down, offering to donate things, helping out. It's a community effort, it's something that I think it's going to be a valuable addition to the town.
This is only the beginning of what the museum is going to be. Isn't that right, David?
That's correct. We haven't finished all of the exhibits. We still have a lot of the narrative to do. There are more exhibits to go up. The other thing that we really want to be involved in is the research end of it, working with those divers and seeing, see what we can discover in terms of some of the history of the town, the early maritime history. We've already made a couple of important discoveries that relate to the Irish mossing industry, for example.
Now, David, the public is going to see this particular bit here. When is this museum going to be open to the general public, and how often will it be open throughout the summer?
It's going to be open Heritage Days, 10 to 4. It's the only building that will be open that we have that's open 10 to 4. The others are open 1 to 4. It'll be open Saturday and Sunday. I'm hoping we can get it open for the rest of the summer, at least on weekends. We still have a lot of work to do, however, in terms of the narrative and some of the photography. But we're making good progress.
It does seem exceptional, and it seems like it's an excellent project there, David, and a lot of credit goes to you and your leadership.
Well, thank you. I want everyone to know that, as I say, it was a community effort. It wasn't just one person doing it. There were many, many people doing it. We are indebted to Pam Martell and George Downton. They both did incredible amounts of work. The artists. It's truly impressive how everybody pulled together.
And it's worthwhile for the community to come on down and take a peek, isn't it?
I think so.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Doc, I'm rocking. Let me get set here. All right, hold it. And do it. All right, here we go.
Say hello to whom?
Pam Martell.
Hi, Pam. Tell me what your specific assignment was here at this museum.
I was brought in back in October by a neighbor of mine initially to help out with the exhibits. My profession, I'm a professional designer. We design retail stores and museum exhibits, primarily on the East Coast. But my home is Situate, and I was thrilled to help out, coming over and give a little bit of advice.
When you came into this building for the first time, Pam, and saw it in its raw appearance, what did you think? A big challenge?
Pretty big challenge, yes, for a museum that had a lot of stories to tell. I knew that there were four or five major topics here, and the rooms, the architecture is, because it's an old colonial home, you know, we have center fireplaces, lots of windows, and how are we going to deal with the issue of light and walls, and how to move people through the space in an exciting way.
And then you rolled the sleeves up and started to go to work.
I'm sorry?
You rolled the sleeves up.
Yes, right. Well, we rolled the sleeves up, but it was always at the end of the day, one night a week. We set Tuesday night as our rendezvous night, and we started meeting every Tuesday. Since from October, we've been meeting more often since then, but we'd get together with the various curators and start with, you know, exactly how do you develop a storyline? How do we identify what photographs, what artifacts would be appropriate? How do we edit, which is really, really the toughest lesson of all, I think. You know, I'm learning all the time, too.
Now the important question. We open today to the general public. The museum is not 100% complete, but it's certainly well on its way. How do you personally feel about the presentation and the reaction?
This has been so gratifying for me as an individual, both as a professional, as a resident of Situate, as a mom. I'm really excited about this whole place, what we're doing, you know, for other people that live here, for our children to learn about the town. What a wonderful place we live in, how lucky we are, and the tradition that's here, the stories of bravery that are here. We're trying not just to show off incidents that happened in town, but the human story behind it. And there are incredible stories that are going to be told in this museum.
And it's all here for the inquisitive.
Absolutely.
Pam, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for your presence and your hard work.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
We're ready.
Peter, I understand that you've done some artwork here. Now, we're confined on a stairwell leading upstairs to the captain quarters. Why did you choose this area to display some of your artwork?
Well, our concept of it was to provide essentially a lead-in to the captain's quarters. The concept being go from Tidewater basically up to the bridge at Hanover, and it's my intent to illustrate numerous river sites along the way. Basically, we have a relatively limited amount of scholarship to draw on in terms of what these sites look like originally, and so I'm trying to replicate what was in a book by the Briggs family. And the whole idea basically is to, from an architectural sense really, to draw a person up the staircase without resorting to verbal cues like signage and so on. Basically create an interesting sort of a procession of artworks in a sense.
How do you describe this art form, Peter?
Well, it's basically just line drawings. It's really embarrassingly simple. It's it's just a felt tip marker, basically.
But the results are fantastic.
Well, I'm a professional illustrator, and so I've used this medium for approximately as long as I've been in practice, really for 15 years now. I've used monochrome illustrations like this. I draw my inspiration primarily on 19th century precedent. I'm very interested in the work of Bertram Goodhue, for example. He was an architect. His firm, Cram, Goodhue and Ferguson, did the Episcopal Church in Cohasset. and it's a very, very remarkable building. And he was arguably one of the finest renderers in the first half of the 20th century, and his style was very luminous, like I'm trying to emulate, basically. He used a lot of high contrast and so on to create a sense of luminosity in his work, and he was a champion of detail and perspective accuracy and so on. So he's pretty much my touchstone, as it were. And
But you're confined to black and the basic color of this mocha color.
you know, well, actually, it's rather pleasant. It's kind of interesting how when you work with monochrome line work on a middle tone or a middle color, really how it tends to almost infuse it as though it were a color illustration. What I try to do is basically I work entirely in value. It's just value delineation, really. You have, you know, in color theory, you have hue, value, and chroma. Well, I don't have hue or chroma, but I have value. And so I just try to work with that and you know, create a sense of drama with light and so on, and poche work and whatnot.
And the public would certainly be remiss if they didn't leave the first floor and climb up the stairs to the captain quarters and observe the work you've done.
Well, one would hope they'd make the trek. Yeah, it's a very pleasant museum, and I'm hoping that it will provide that little impetus to go up, climb a staircase here, and you know, partake of what we have to offer on the upper levels.
Well done, Peter, and thank you.
Thank you for having me.
About 1985, I guess it was, Bill found this whistle. And the interesting thing about the whistle is that the people of Scituate at that time knew this ship because the whistle was so loud. It's not going to be that loud tonight, don't worry. The ship disaster was kind of forgotten about. And Bill, by having this whistle here tonight, is going to be doing something quite unusual. It's going to be sounded tonight. It hasn't been sounded except for one time last 2 days ago in 67 years. Bill had the granddaughter of the captain that was lost on the ship up here from Pennsylvania. He took her around all the sites in town, and she actually fired the whistle off. It was kind of a moving moment for her. The whistle actually came off another ship, and the captain of the Pinthus apparently retrieved it from another wrecked tanker, swam out, if I understand the story correctly, got the whistle off the tanker before they set the tanker on fire. So he used the tanker on his ship. We're going to fire it off. We're going to blow the whistle twice, and there's a reason for that. And the captain, his name was Captain Albert Jones, was passing down the Taunton River, and when he went by a certain bridge, after passing the bridge, he would sound the whistle 2 times, one for his wife and one for his daughter. The daughter is 76 years old today. It's still a very emotional story for her. She doesn't even want to come back east because she doesn't want, I guess, to bring back those bad memories. She was 9 years old when she lost her father. 18 other men were lost on that vessel, and many more on the other ship that rammed her. So, I guess we're ready to go.
Just one interesting little tidbit. The whistle was on the tanker Llewellyn Holland when Captain Jones retrieved it. And Llewellyn Holland was built in 1888, so that whistle is over 100 years old.
I guess the back of my head he's got hair.
This is the shot because I'm looking at you and I'm looking down the line at the whole exhibit. Good. This is all your work. Doc, I'm rolling.
Here we are once again in the interior of.
3.
Here we are at the interior of the museum, and we are speaking to
Dana Green.
Hi, Dana. What was your responsibility in this project?
More or less to see the construction through to the end as far as the interior design goes.
Wasn't that one heck of a challenge, considering the project as you inherited it was an old, broken down relic?
Well, it was fun because it allowed us to be creative and work with Pam, George, and some of the other people with this Historical Society as far as a group of ideas coming together and into a very interesting situation that I never realized how many wrecks, and Scituate has an unusual coastline that allowed so much history to crash along its shores.
Do you have any announcements to the public of what is here and why you believe perhaps an invitation is in order for them to come by?
Well, it shows how important shipping was to the area, how many people lost their lives along the Scituate coastline, and how Scituate survived because of the coastline, I think.
Now, in terms of getting back to construction, were there any major hindrances or problems that you were confronted with?
I think the biggest problem that the Historical Society had was trying to fit everything in around the building. You could always use a larger space, and I think part of their design that was unique and really interesting was that they wanted ever-changing, that they don't want everything to stay as it is, status quo, that next year this whole exhibit will have different things about it, and that if you see it this year, it's going to be different from what you see next year. And I think that in itself is really unique.
And that's a stimulant to keep up the interest of the public.
The interest, and also in enhancing what is here so that it keeps becoming more of an accurate view of history and more of an in-depth view.
Now, you've been a major player in the development of this entire project. Today, the whistle blew, the bell rang. How do you feel about the event?
Well, it's nice to see something come to a conclusion, and with a group like the Scituate Historical Society, that they have really have such a creative group to see what they're going to come up with for the next project. They have, I think, about 7 buildings. And if they keep showing the amount of energy and creativity that they have with these different buildings that they have, Scituate already has such a great group to do a lot that brings in a lot of people into the town, and will in the future as they develop these different buildings. Along with like the Lawson Tower and things like that, the lighthouse, that these tourist dollars that are spent in a town have a kind of a rippling effect.
So we have something here for the general public, I mean, as you just said, the tourists.
Well, the tourist as well as the school kids in the town, the people living in the town. I hope that they take advantage and know their history of their coast as well as their mainland, and other towns should be jealous of what they have to offer.
That's an accurate statement, and there's no gloating there. I'm aware of that.
Oh, very much. I don't live here in Scituate, and I wish I could afford to.